Auburn very publicly had a awkward scenario going on with Bryan Harsin where tried to get him fired in the offseason, swung, missed, awkward all the way through SEC Media Day, awkward around the Missouri game where they're like, we're going to fire him if they lose this game, find a way to win the game. Anyway, it finally came to an end. Probably best for both parties if we're being honest with ourselves. It was a toxic relationship. Auburn deserves better. Bryan Harsin deserves better. Both things can be true. But now you have a vacancy at, in my opinion, one of the most intriguing and, when it's humming, best jobs in America. But I will say this. The Auburn head coaching vacancy is very much so similar to like living in the state of New York or living in Alaska. Now, what do I mean by that? When it comes to living in the United States, you can be happy in just about every state if you have the money to live that way. Same thing with college football head coaching jobs. If you win, it can work anywhere, right? Like that usually does the trick. Brian Kelly was getting all this conversation in the offseason about he doesn't fit, his fake accent, he's not going to do anything there. Well, it's working right now in year one. We'll get to that in a second, but you catch my drift. If you win, it works. I think it takes a little bit extra at Auburn. Like living in the state of New York and living in Alaska, you can have money and live comfortably there, but how many of you know you kind of got to be a fit to live in one of those states? Alaska's got that crazy deal where you've got daylight for I don't know how many hours a day at some point in the summer. Shout out to all our Alaska viewers. New York, traffic is crazy. Cost of living is crazy. Pace of life is crazy. It just takes a certain kind of person to handle it effectively. Same thing with Auburn. The Auburn job, if you win, they will love you, and that's a great thing. But to get that job and to be a fit from the jump, you got to be able to handle the extracurriculars, got to be able to handle the powers that be, have to be able to handle the SEC. Like there's a lot of extra things that come with this job. So I kind of want to go through 3 names right now that are being thrown around frequently in most hot boards, most circles, and just kind of give you my thoughts. The name that we have heard the most is Lane Kiffin. And it's fair, right? He's kind of the portal king. He's 23-9 during his time at Ole Miss. And in some way, shape, or form, you say, okay, Lane Kiffin's a perfect fit for Auburn. Knows how to handle the SEC, would recruit. Like that all on the surface makes sense. Here's my concern when it comes to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin brings his own set of extracurriculars, if you will. There's his own sort of things that I think play into effect with what he would be as the Auburn head coach. There's sort of a little bit of an acclimation period, right, to getting on board with Lane Kiffin. And I just wonder, if I'm a booster at Auburn and it's shown that there is a sort of desire they have for what their head coach looks like and acts like and does and all that, I wonder if Lane Kiffin wouldn't ruffle some feathers with some of the things that he does, whether it's press conferences, whether it's social media. Like, I just am curious to how that would play. And my feel on it is that's kind of a storyline waiting to happen. So I'm not saying they won't hire him. I'm not saying he wouldn't be great there. I'm just saying that gives me some pause in regards to all the Lane Kiffin conversation. All right. Matt Rhule, another guy that in a lot of ways makes a ton of sense. Proven track record, was in the NFL for a period of time. Proven track record at the college level, rebuilt multiple programs, most recently Baylor. I mean, they were a dumpster fire. He got him back to a New Year's Six Bowl. Matt Rhule could be a good fit, right? Same thing that we're talking about, though, in terms of the extra piece that comes with the Auburn job. I've been around Matt Rhule. I was in his program for a very short period of time. He would be, in my humble opinion, a 2X version of what Bryan Harsin was. He's an elite presenter. I think he would recruit well. He's a phenomenal evaluator of talent. But when it comes to what this Auburn beast would be, he is very much so structure. We do things my way. We do things how, I say they're going to be done. I am the law. And he doesn't like having other hands messing around with his program. And at Auburn, that's kind of the nature of the beast. You know it and I know it. Bryan Harsin knows it now. I don't think Matt Rhule would necessarily love that. Now, there has also been murmurs and rumors about, hey, he wants the job. He would take the job, whatever. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just saying I get the appeal. I have pause as to how they would mesh. I think, again, you're just kind of hiring a Bryan Harsin that's been more places and done more things. I'll leave it at that. Deion Sanders, the third name I want to jump into here. He is one of the most intriguing candidates because of what he would probably bring for you in recruiting. For what he's done for Jackson State is phenomenal. I think it's a tremendous feat already in what he's done there in his short time in Jackson State. And there's been a lot of conversation about he wants to get to the Power 5 level, interviewed for multiple Power 5 jobs, was apparently really impressive when he interviewed for those jobs. But my concern is the experience factor. Deion Sanders, as great as he's done from a wins and losses perspective, hasn't necessarily gone through the same ringer that some other coaches have to get to this point. And that's not a knock on Deion Sanders. I mean, NFL Hall of Famer, right? Like, you can probably understand why there's a different evaluation happening here. But I'm just saying, typically, the trajectory is you're a volunteer or maybe a GA, work really hard, maybe you get a position coaching job, then maybe you get to be a coordinator, then maybe things fall into place where you get a head coaching job and work your way up from there to an even bigger head coaching job. Well, Deion Sanders coached high school, is now coaching at Jackson State, and you're going to throw him into the Auburn circles, you're going to throw him into the SEC like that. I think that's a big jump. I would love for him to get more experience at Jackson State, or love for him to take maybe a smaller Power 5 job, if that even is fair to say. I would just say this when it comes to Auburn. With the prestige of that program, with the brand that Auburn is, with all of the potential around that program, like I said, when it's humming, I think it's a top 5 job in America. Now, it's one of the most difficult jobs in America, but I think it's a top 5 job nonetheless. If you're Auburn, you don't have to take a risk. Like, as Auburn, you can afford, both metaphorically and literally, to take a swing on a name that's big, that has a proven track record in a similar field, and can handle everything that comes with it. You don't need to take a flyer. And I think in some degree, that's what Deion Sanders, in my humble opinion, would be. Not saying it can't work. I'm just saying that's my cause for concern. So I'll give you 2 names that I do feel good about. The first of which is Hugh Freeze. Been in the SEC, done more with less at Liberty. He's 33-12 as a head coach. I think he gets what it takes to be at Auburn. And so for that reason, I think Hugh Freeze is an interesting name, and a name that we should continue to talk about. Now, the snag there maybe is Liberty just re-upped his contract. Maybe that's more expensive to get him out of. Not here to talk about all that. I'm just saying Hugh Freeze, for my money, would be a good get. Now, here's my number 1 guy for the Auburn job. You ready? Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach for Alabama. The biggest appeal to me about him, yes, I think he can recruit. Yes, he gets the SEC. Yes, he's from the Saban school of coaches that get rehabilitated into a Power 5 head coaching job. My biggest compliment to him would be that he is a high-capacity individual. I mean, for goodness sakes, guy was an NFL GM at one point, was also an NFL head coach. I think he could handle the beast that Auburn is, which is really saying something, because there's not many people in the world, much less coaching circles, that could handle what that job requires. So Bill O'Brien, for me today, gets my vote to be the next head coach at Auburn. But I'm telling you, if you're Auburn, swing for the fence and make these guys say no, all right? Because you're going to have a lot of options. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.